You may have escaped the illusion of dogma. You may have shut off the noise of technology. You may have even made the surrender of your Dominator Ego, but there is one last illusion that still traps you. It is the most subtle, the most deeply rooted, and the one that prevents you from living in the Lord's presence. It is the illusion of linear time. We were taught that time is an inexorable arrow, past guilt, grief, present effort, obligation, and future fear, anxiety. And our Dominator Ego, the great architect of control, transformed this arrow into a tyrant of the calendar. Anxiety is not a moral failing. It is the symptom that you are trying to live in two places that do not exist: yesterday, which cannot be changed, and tomorrow, which cannot be known. If you are grieving, the tyrant of the calendar tortures you with the repetition of what was lost. If you are addicted, it paralyzes you with the fear of future relapse. In both cases, it steals the only place where grace can operate. The eternal now time, as we know it, is a construct of the dominator culture to maintain productivity, predictability, and above all, fear. Without the fear of time running out, the ego loses its power of urgency and control. McKenna, the seeker of the Archaic Revival, reminded us that time is not a line. It is a spiral, a mystery, the very manifestation of novelty. We are spiritually exhausted, not because we do too much, but because we try to carry 3 dimensions of existence, past, present, and future, in a single moment of surrender. The calling to redemption is a call for a revolution of time's act of declaring independence from the tyrant of the calendar. What if your only way to find the Lord's presence and stop your anxiety is to have the courage to live only in this atom of presence, the now, without worrying about what the next hour will bring? If what you have heard so far has already made you thoughtful, stay with me to reflect on this and subscribe to the channel before you forget and miss the next voyages. The last illusion is the most treacherous because it disguises itself as responsibility. The tyrant of the calendar convinces us that planning and worry are virtues, when in fact they are sophisticated forms of denial of faith. It tells us, if you worry enough about the future, you will control it. If you regret the past enough, you will redeem it. The Logos teaches us the opposite. The past is redeemed by the surrender and testimony of the present. The future is entrusted to the grace and novelty that God creates in the now. Addiction and grief flourish in this temporal prison. Addiction is the repetitive attempt to recreate a past pleasure or to anesthetize a feared future. Grief is the refusal to accept that the past is over and the loved one now exists only as sacred memory in your present communion. Instead of seeking direct experience, we seek control of the clock. We lose the Lord's presence because we are too busy marking the minutes until the next crisis or the next redemption. The courage to abandon what you know demands that you treat addiction not as a problem of action, but as a problem of temporal focus. The radical surrender is accepting that the Logos has strength only for the present moment. If the future brings relapse, the future will bring grace for it. But in this second, you are free now. Look at grief. Grief becomes barren when it clings to the illusion that the loved one still belongs to your present time. The weight of memory prevents you from celebrating Eros and the life that continues. Redemption in grief is the courage to reclassify the past. The loved one is not in the yesterday that blames you. They are in the sacred memory that drives your testimony in the eternal now. The novelty of the Logos destroys this temporal prison. The Logos is the I am of the present. He is the direct experience that resides uniquely in the indestructible reality of this moment. Your anxiety is your Dominator Ego trying to play the prophet and judge at the same time. Your faith is your decision to refuse the role, dismantling the tyrant of the calendar with every breath of surrender. The tyrant of the calendar is an invention of the Dominator culture. It is not real time, but profane time, time measured by the clock. The market, the urgency, and linearity. McKenna, in his plea for the Archaic Revival, invited us to rescue what ancient cultures knew. Time is not a line that traps us. It is a cycle, a mystery, an eternal return to the sacred. In profane time, your value lies in your productivity and your ability to control the future. With every unproductive minute, the tyrant of the calendar punishes you with anxiety and guilt. In sacred time, your value lies in your presence and your surrender to the mystery. Every moment is an opportunity for communion and novelty. The last illusion that the Dominator Ego defends is that you need to be a slave to the linear clock to be saved. But the Logos is the Lord of sacred time. Grace is always available, and she destroys linearity. Your grief, the weight of the past, becomes less crushing when you place it in sacred time. You celebrate the loved one's memory, but you accept the cycle of loss and rebirth that the Lord's presence orchestrates. Addiction, the fear of the future, loses its grip when you accept that tomorrow is not an inevitable repetition of the past. The courage to abandon what you know requires you to trust that the Logos will create a future you cannot predict, but that will be guided by grace. Sacred time is the eternal now, living in the eternal. Now is the most radical act of direct experience you can commit. It is where your mind meets the Lord's presence without the noise of past regret or future worry. Redemption is your declaration that you are no longer governed by the clock of the Dominator culture, but by the flow of eternal life that is already within you. You stopped consuming time and started creating within it. Accepting sacred time is the first step. The second is discipline. Anxiety and the nameless addiction are, in essence, failures of attention. The Dominator Ego thrives when your mind is scattered between yesterday's regret and tomorrow's fear. The Logos demands your total attention in the eternal now. Vigilance in the now is the new asceticism. It's no longer about self-flagellation or isolation, but about the heroic act of maintaining focus on the Lord's presence in this atom of time. The Archaic Revival teaches us that healing is not passive. It requires intentional action. Your surrender needs to be renewed every minute your ego tries to pull you back to the guilt of the past or the prophecy of future disaster. Vigilance is the courage to say, I refuse to spend my most sacred resource, my attention on temporal illusions, when grief strikes. Vigilance allows you to feel the pain without becoming the pain, recognizing that, in this moment, grace sustains you. When the addiction trigger fires, vigilance allows you to create the space of a microsecond to invoke the Logos and choose novelty, instead of automatic repetition. Redemption is the harvest of attention. Vigilance in the now began as a personal discipline, but it reveals a profound truth about sacred time. The eternal now is, by nature, a space of communion. The tyrant of the calendar isolates us. Anxiety is, in part, the result of a collective failure of focus. We are all trapped in our feared individual futures. Instead of meeting in the indestructible reality of the present, when you find the others and both practice vigilance in the now, a miraculous thing happens. The weight of the past and future that each carries is instantly alleviated by mutual presence. Mutual redemption is proof that the Logos is not just an idea, but a shared sustaining force that only operates in sacred time. Communion in the now is the practical manifestation that the end of personal time has already happened. You are no longer waiting for salvation in the future. You are actively living salvation in the present. Sustained by grace and the body, the eternal now is proof that you are no longer alone. The tyrant of the calendar traps us in a cruel dilemma. You either fear the future, or you try to control it with the raw force of the Dominator Ego. Redemption offers a third way, revealed in the eternal now. The creation of the future through imagination as an act of faith. Anxiety is your imagination being used by the past. Faith is your imagination being used by the Logos. The Archaic Revival invites you to return to the primal consciousness, where the mind was the very tool for mapping and creating reality. The courage to abandon what you know about what your future should be requires the surrender of all your old maps and the permission for the Logos to use your imagination to draw something your addicted mind could never conceive. Imagination as an act of faith is the most revolutionary act of vigilance that the tyrant of the calendar cannot touch. He can only measure time. He cannot measure the mystery that you are actively cultivating. The end of linearity means that the future is not a destination. The future is a creation born from the eternal now. You have walked the path to the final point of the tyrant of the calendar. You have seen that anxiety is the fear of a future that does not exist, and regret is the guilt of a past that cannot be changed. The final plot twist of this narrative is your own liberation. The end of linearity means that God's calling is not waiting for you tomorrow. It is here, in this exact instant, in the direct experience of the Lord's presence. Your imagination is your most revolutionary act of faith. It allows you to see the novelty that the Logos is building, instead of seeing the repetition that your Dominator Ego. The courage you need is to take a deep breath and declare, I only have the now, and that is enough. Because the now is the presence. Addiction and grief only exist when you allow profane time to steal your focus. Redemption is the harvest of vigilance in the now. The certainty that grace is available in communion and surrender every second. The price for living in the eternal now is your old, comfortable identity as a victim of time. But the reward is your peace, your joy of Eros, and your total freedom. I ask you, with the urgency of one who has seen the last illusion crumble, what is the one worry about the future that your ego still refuses to surrender to the now? And what will be the cost to your soul if you waste this moment of presence?